So, I know we all saw what the Houston Rockets are doing, and everyone had a different opinion on it. And a majority of opinions were negative. People didn't really think like it was going to work because it feels like a lot of rejects or team rejects going to the same place. And the team that already didn't have enough continuity were already one of the worst in the NBA, and people were already low on some of their talent already. It felt like it was just a match made in disaster. But getting Udoka here and a lot of these guys genuinely killing a lot of the narratives around their name has pushed this Houston Rockets team to a 6-3 record to begin this season and a 6-game winning streak. And in that 6-game winning streak, they're a top 5 offense and the number 1 defense in the NBA. And overall, they're a top 10 offense and a top 5 defense throughout the entire season. And that's because of a couple outlier shooting performances, but it's also because of a lot of scheming changes and things I think are going to last. So we're going to talk about why the Houston Rockets have been playing so well, how it may look going forward, and genuinely, do they have a chance to really make some noise in the Western Conference? Okay, if we're going to talk about the Houston Rockets, we're going to need to talk about last year. Last year, the Houston Rockets had a lot of issues. They were the youngest team in the NBA, and they genuinely just consistently could not produce good basketball, either offensively or defensively. While you saw flashes from guys like Şengün and Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr., it felt like this team was trying to push an offense surrounding KPJ a lot, especially him as a heliocentric hub, which generally just isn't a good thing. But firing Stephen Silas probably was the best thing they could have done, and bringing in Udoka is genuinely challenging. Firing Stephen Silas is the best thing they could have done. Udoka has put a scheme around this team that's been magnificent, and him having control early in the offseason and having some input on the guys they decide to draft, and certain problems happening that I think is a blessing in disguise for getting rid of certain people, has truly made this a match made in heaven for a team that has a chance to make some noise. This past offseason, the Houston Rockets gave out some pretty lucrative contracts. One to Lyndon Brooks and one to Fred VanVleet. They also signed Jock Landale and Jeff Green, 2 vets, 2 guys that have been around the league here. Jeff Green is just really old, so I didn't really expect much from him. But Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks specifically were having some negative expectations on what they could even provide. Fred VanVleet just didn't have a positive outlook to him as a player after his tenure with the Toronto Raptors ended, and just how poorly he shoots sometimes. And same thing for Dillon Brooks in the poor shooting and the fact that his antics got Memphis to tell him he's not getting re-signed by any means necessary. But adding these two and giving Udoka the reins to do what he wants with this team for the best possible outcome is the best thing the Houston Rockets could have done. Dillon Brooks is a guy that plays every single play like it's his freaking last and defends everybody the same way, the same hard-nosed way. And he does a very good job at it. He's a very, very good defender. So putting those things together and putting him on a young team that was having problems in those areas and needed wing defense, it's the perfect fit for him. And then you look at Fred VanVleet, who hasn't been giving you any more than you expect him to. 17 points per game, 8 assists with the minutes he's getting on the same terrible shooting splits, but being a dog defensively and being the floor general and putting things together and at least being capable of running an offense unlike what they've had before was the perfect thing for Şengün and Jalen Green to have, and Jabari in the starting lineup for them. Right now, Dillon is shooting absolutely insane 53 splits, which is not going to last. I understand that. But you have to look at guys like Jalen Green, who started the season kind of slow overall shooting the ball. You expect that to pick up. So as Dillon Brooks' percentages regress, you're probably going to look at Jalen Green's increase a little bit. And I would expect Fred VanVleet to get better than 36% from the field. But overall, those two have been plus signings for people that generally just didn't think they were going to be worth that much, especially with Fred VanVleet, the massive amount of money he got. But within 2 years, you're developing Amen Thompson. Fred VanVleet can do a very good job of at least putting this franchise in the right place, and while Amen Thompson develops and takes the starting reins away from him, since I think the last year is a team option on his contract. So either way, it's a win-win for the Houston Rockets. And then you look at the young talent that's already here in Jalen, Şengün, and Jabari, and Tari Eason coming off the bench. This team did something I think a lot of young teams need to do, and it's look themselves in the face and pick the guys that you're going to build around. They weren't going to need Josh Christopher or Kenyon Martin Jr. in their future, and those guys were the guys expendable, and you can use to actually build the roster and accelerate the growth of the core guys that you know you're going to keep. And right now, that's the best thing they could have done. Jalen Green, after a slow start in the last game, which was actually horrible, the five out of the 6 games of this winning streak, he's shooting 48% from the field, and 40, I think 2% from 3. He's being a lot more efficient. Yes, he's had some outlier bad shooting games, which is understandable, but being on a team that the offense is working this well and it's no longer ISO AAU ball, it's showing that he has the talent that everybody expects him to. Like, I don't know why people are so quick to want to write off guys within their second or third year, especially somebody as talented Jalen Green on a team that you knew was going to be bad and that is going to take time for them to even grow. And then you look at Şengün, they decided to finally actually start playing through him. Şengün this season is putting up 19, 8, and 6 on great shooting splits. Last year, it felt like they were really trying to play through KPJ, and anything Şengün did or anything Jabari did was normally just a plus and not something that you're going to harp on, which is why Jabari was shooting so bad, because you were trying to use him in positions that he really wasn't great in. But Şengün specifically, I thought, showed so much talent that he deserves for this team to be built around him as a playmaking hub, and it didn't decide to do it. And this year, he's been doing great. And on the defensive end, he's been doing well too, but we'll talk about that a little later. You look at Jabari, though, finally they're diversifying his offensive portfolio. He's not only being a catch and shoot guy, he's getting shots in the post, he's attacking closeouts, he's in the dunker spot sometimes. They're diversifying his portfolio and using every single one of his talents, whether it's his length, his quickness at his size, and his shooting ability to its maximum value at this level, instead of just sticking him in the corner, sticking on top of the perimeter to be a catch and shooter, and then letting him get a couple post attempts in a couple of games here and there where he looks good, and then completely taking it away from him the rest of the time he's here. It just wasn't a great rookie season coaching wise from last year, and I think he's definitely showing all of his talents now. So you combine the vets with the young guys playing really, really well, and you get this amazing young team that still has so much of a ways to go, even with Amin hurt right now. But one thing I do love is that I think a lot of this, both their offense and their defense, has a chance to be sustainable to some extent. I'm not gonna say they're gonna be top five in both categories the entire freaking year. Like, that's kind of a lot to expect from them, but I do see that they can probably be top 10 in both. They now run a motion offense that limits isolation, increases passing. They're, I think, number 1 in secondary assists and top 5 in screen assists this season. They're running a very, very perimeter-oriented defense that basically neglects the rim, because last year they were last in opponents' percentages at the rim at 69%, and this year they're last again at 69%. But they're doing a very, very good job of swarming the perimeter and stopping guys from even getting to the rim. They are the number 1 team in opponents' 3-point percentage at 31%. They're selling out in the perimeter and knowing that Şengün is just not a great rim protector, and they're hoping Jabari can at least develop into a pretty good to great weak side rim protector to negate some of those things, because I do think not having any type of rim protection is going to come back to bite you even if you do make the playoffs. But Şengün has been doing really well in his defensive role as swarming the perimeter. Stylists started to use him in a drop last year, and again, he cannot protect the rim. He's 6'9", 6'10", not very athletic. It wasn't really gonna work, and he doesn't really move laterally crazy quick. But they're playing him higher at the nail. He's hedging a lot more on screens. He's using his quick hands to deflect passes in the passing lanes and make it hard to get certain passes into the paint. And he's doing a very good job of using his weight and size to bump guys off their line of drive early, instead of letting them all get all the way down to the rim, and it ends up being a foul. So he's playing really well in the new scheme Udoka is pushing in. And then that's the next person that deserves some praise for how this team has developed. Udoka again shows why Boston should just look past whatever happened, because if it wasn't anything legal issues, there's no reason to fire this man. He's an absolute magician. He has a great understanding of the players he wants on his team, a great understanding of the talent and the skills of the players on his team, and knows to put them in the right places for them to be successful. And the way he's turned around this Houston Rockets team so far is absolutely magnificent. Now, I don't think Dillon Brooks' shooting is going to keep up the way it is, and I do think at some point when you start getting games with teams like with a Jokic, with a Bam Adebayo, with a Rudy Gobert, with teams that are heavily going to be attacking the paint, is going to be a problem. They're going to see a couple losses specifically because they cannot protect the rim, but that's not a problem that I think is going to knock them out the top 10 or top 15 or at least top half in the league in defense, simply because they're just very, very good at limiting those penetrations towards the rim and taking away the 3-point shot, two of the biggest weapons in the NBA. So This team has been doing really, really well, and I'm just here to tell you, I told you so. I called it earlier this year. Like, I had the video right here. Like, I had some belief, and I didn't want to write off Jalen Green or Jabari or Trey Eason or any one of those guys very early, and it shows that it's not great to write off those guys early. This team is very talented, and I do love to see what they can keep getting going. And I think they're going to go on a 7-game winning streak, because I think their next game is either against the Warriors or something, and the Warriors are going to be without Draymond because Draymond's stupid. But with that being said, this is FLB. That's my time, and I'm out.